All right, so it's good evening from India to start with, and and a good morning, good afternoon, and good day to everybody across the world. And it is indeed very exciting to be here at the conference of the ocean people. Let me just say literally three sentences. The conference of the ocean people is probably the first time when the community known as the coastal fishing community is taking on the identity war, let me call it, with the corporate capitalist world, including this time around the UN conference of which they call as the Ocean Conference. So here we are at the conference of the ocean people. Third is that this idea did not come from anyone else but one of our brightest young community leaders. And this idea to take on the UN conference, provide the counter conference of the people and call it a COP, a conference of the ocean people, usually a language used by the UN and the officialdom of the world. To use the COP to say that it's not just conference of parties, it's also the conference of the people. But here it's the conference of the ocean people. We are very happy that this is actually taking place at a time when there are plenty of efforts that are going on to also let UN and the global, big stakedom to know that people are resisting. There is a parallel event that is happening in Lisbon where some of our comrades are there, and joining, Transnational Institute, WFP, CCFP, all of them together in doing a parallel meeting there. There are plenty of other efforts happening across the continent, physical events. Some of them, we are hoping that we can showcase some of those solidarity with the COP, with the Conference of the Ocean People that are happening across the world, across the shores in our different oceans that we live by.
Today, it is very jubilant for us that we are having that event. I'm based at Mumbai just now because we are roaming in all over India with our coastal rally, coastal long march. It is connected with all issues related to oceans and sea and sagars. So we are appreciating the efforts those who are working for this COP on front line or even behind the curtain. We are very much worried that the ocean people will be thrown away from their sea, from their livelihood, and the bureaucrats, the fundamentalists or capitalist community will take the charge and they will grab everything, including our general life. Appeal them to be in the moment to resolve this issue with our own taste, but not by the dictatorships or not by any force outsiders. We are the ocean people. Sagar hamara hai, Saminder hamara hai.
Just saying these names of stalwarts like Thomas Kocheri, Hare Krishna Devnath, or Mathani from India, I say this also because of the role our leaders played in bringing up the solidarity of the fisher movement. And we are very honored that in the 25th year, we are taking a step forward. Having said that, the ocean people identity is another step forward to establish and reclaim the politics of the people. This is no way a de-escalation of our commitment towards the inland fishers movement or the river bank, the river fishers and their community struggles and demands and rights, the question of rights. This is for the coastal communities. This is taking a leap forward in terms of both shaping the identity battles further at a time when corporate world is looking forward to, after destroying land, forests, and mountains, they're looking forward to now exploiting the oceanic resources.
I wanted to share, we gave a small questionnaires to all our participants that will be sharing, all our movement leaders that will be sharing their narrative, their story. It is something that is in your genes. If you are a fisher person, ocean person, you know it is something in your DNA. Like you're destined to become a fisher, and perhaps you will actually feel like fish outside of water if you were forced to identify with any other livelihood. So we didn't choose fishing, it chose us. And it's something that we enjoy and we want to continue doing. Like I was introduced, I live in Belize, Central America. So we identify with Latin America and the Caribbean. And a recent challenge that we are facing is with the restrictions of laws, fishing laws. They're trying to harmonize the laws with the region of Central America, and even implementing laws that are coming from outside to fit. Like we have some lobster restrictions that are supposed to be harmonized with even the USA. And fishers had to use their traditional knowledge, and they had to meet with the minister of now what is called blue economy. We don't have a minister of fisheries anymore. It's the blue economy minister, to negotiate and present evidence as traditional fishers who have the knowledge and know that this cannot be suitable for them. With that plea and negotiation, they were able to have another year with the laws being its original without new restrictions being placed, and at another date next year they will look at it again. But because of all the agitation from the fishers protesting on the media, the minister was forced to put a stop to implementing new restrictions on our lobster fishery. So that is just one example of when we unite and work together, that we have to stand together to safeguard what is our livelihood. And we are organizing this conference of the ocean people, and we are taking the responsibility to assert what is our historical and customary rights. We want to secure food sovereignty of all the ocean people. And we even are sustainable fishers. We look at protecting the coastal land for our future generations. And we decided that we are going to organize this simultaneously with the UN's Ocean Conference. And that conference is starting actually tomorrow. And it runs for a week or so. And so this is our way to dissent against the historical injustice that we have received as ocean people. And this is our way to survive, not just for ourselves, not just for our national people, but for every single community living on Earth. We are doing this for.
On We Are the Ocean, we are restless like the ocean, and we will stay free like the ocean. The Blue Revolution, to basically continue colonizing nature, colonizing the land, colonizing the sea, and colonizing the livelihoods of people. I have spent half a century now looking at the falsehoods of the Green and Blue Revolution and globalization. And I realized that the idea that the new technologies are more productive and therefore local livelihoods and artisanal fishermen and fisherfolk and small farmers their livelihoods must be destroyed is absolutely scientifically false. They extract faster, but higher rates of extractivism is higher destruction of ecosystems and the planet and higher degradation of the food system. That's why I just love Nadine talking about how a big part of being a fisherfolk is eating healthy, eating directly the gifts of the ocean. Look at what has happened with the Blue Revolution. First, they brought the trawlers to the ocean. And I remember the National Fishermen's Forum and Tom Kochery started. We had so many protests. Trawling is a highly inefficient system. It throws away 20 to 50% of good, healthy, wholesome fish as bycatch, destroying the living system of the sea. And then I did many studies on the shrimp aquaculture, which was being called the Blue Revolution. And our studies showed that 10 times more fish is caught at sea to feed the captive shrimp. The fingerlings are captured from the sea and stocked into these ponds that are on the land, which spread salinity. Seawater is pulled on the land. So you destroy the water systems, you destroy the agriculture, you destroy the fisheries. This is a very polluting industry. The huge amounts of waste and antibiotics, all of this is every day thrown back into the sea, polluting the coastal area. And it has destroyed the mangroves that, I remember when we did a public hearing on shrimp aquaculture, it was an old farmer who said the next time there's a storm, every place where there's a shrimp farm and the mangroves have been destroyed, people will be destroyed. Exactly what happened when the tsunami hit. We are living in periods of climate change. We need every bit of integrity of coastal ecosystems, every bit of mangrove protected. And this is precisely what is being destroyed in the new ideas of the blue economy. Industrial agriculture and industrial fisheries is the reason for the desertification of soil and the desertification of the ocean. Overfishing is built into a monoculture economy. Overfishing is built into the commodification of life. Fisherfolk do not treat one species as a commercial species. For them, all species have a role in the ecology of the sea, and all species have a role in their diet. That's why both agriculture and fisheries in the indigenous systems are based on diversity. So what is it that we need to do together? One, we have to recognize that the most places which still have biodiversity are the places where indigenous systems are, because we have never harmed nature. We never declared war on nature. We never treated nature as an enemy. So 80% biodiversity in 25% of the land of indigenous people. And I'm sure if you were to do a survey as ocean people, wherever there is no industrial fishing, there's be more biodiversity of fish. And wherever there's industrial fishing, there'll be depletion of stocks and more monocultures. 75% of the catch is by small-scale fishermen, like 80% of the food is produced by small farms. The myth of productivity has made us blind to the fact that fisherfolk and small farmers feed the world. We have to protect and reclaim the commons as you are doing. And I'm so happy I've been able to join you for this conference. We need to defend the community rights to the commons. And it is the commons that will defend us from this falsehood and neo-colonialism. The Blue Revolution was imposed under structural adjustment.
With everything that's been said, I think we are facing the same things. And I just love that the term commons came into play, because right now where I live, we are dealing with the blue economy, which has to do with large scale kelp farming, large industrial wind farms. And now our own government is pushing for offshore finfish aquaculture. And the impacts that this are going to have on small scale and even medium scale fishermen and fishing families is enormous. And we are fighting back. We're doing our best to do that. I just was part of a coalition in DC, down in Washington, with fishermen from around the country, dealing with the commodification, the turning fish into property rights rather than part of the public trust. It's a rich history here in New England for fishing, and watching it being bought and sold as if it's being traded on a stock market is frightening and disheartening. But just joining these meetings and learning from people around the globe that we're all in this same battle, and the fact that we can get together and fight this together on an international level is empowering. Blue economy, or as we've been calling here, the real estate grab of the ocean, gets put in check, because I think people forget, or they're just complacent to the fact that without farmers and fishermen, there's no food. And with what had been spoken just prior to me, the fact that this is intentional is not a joke. I mean, I tell some people that in my own country, and they look at me as if I'm crazy, but there is an intentional push to get fishermen, especially small scale fishermen and small scale farmers, out of business, and just do everything on a factory industrial scale and push all of us out and away from the water. I mean, where I'm sitting right now, the average cost of a home is $500,000. And I'm fortunate I can still access it. But, you know, we're looking at the loss of working waterfronts. We're looking at the loss of infrastructure. We're looking at the loss of just access to our right to fish. You know, it's being turned around. It's no longer going to be a right. It's a privilege. And to me, that's very sad. And again, as long as I have a breath in me, I will continue to fight to protect this right.
NFF has taken this historical step with WFFP to hold the rights of the ocean people globally. This is the right time that we have been here, and we have been here to loudly say that we belong to the ocean and our rights. Regarding, I am here to share about the atrocities or the subjugation of rights that is happening in India in the name of blue economy, supported by the state, to the corporates. When we say ocean, it is not only the ocean, it is the sea, it is the land, it is our coastal forest, it's our inland resources and the brackish water resources. And we as a capture fishers, we as a hunters, we as a tribe, we always resist against the grab of our resources, which subjugate our rights, which take our homelands, which grab our homelands, which take away us out of the lands. But what happened after tsunami 2004? The government has said that we are going to reconstruct you after the tsunami, and this tsunami has made our catalyzed the subjugation of rights, catalyzed more and more industries into our nations, into our boundaries, into our homelands. Now, largely they brought under all the umbrella called all the projects which subjugate our rights under one umbrella called blue economy. And the Norwegian who came in 1961 has come back to us with a great blue economy policy to loot our resources back home. Not only the ocean, already our fisheries resources the fisheries economy has been looted because of them. We lost all our fisheries resources. Now they are come back to after cleaning our fisheries resources, they have come back now to lease out the entire ocean with their marine spatial planning and their blue economic policy. In India, it is very clear that for the ocean, there is a marine spatial planning, which they want to sell to more and more stakeholders, and they want to lease out to the more and more stakeholders to take not only the fish, it's an economic zone to loot more and more oil, to more and more oil resources and other mining resources. It is not at all, they doesn't depends upon fisheries. In taking out this thing as a project, as a solution to the fisheries, now they are asking us to grow fish in the sea and eat that lab-based fisheries. For the ocean, it is marine spatial planning, and for the land, it is the coastal economic zone plans to allocate our homelands for the coastal economic zones for ports and other industries. Our forest has been allocated as marine protected areas, and our inland resources are allocated for aquaculture labs to create more and more fish, to produce more and more fish and coastal resources. We are being fenced with all these multi-stakeholders, grabbing our resources. And now we are being in India has been facing this apartheid, the blue apartheid, for a long time. And the past decade, it is on us. So we are here and we are holding this. We strongly says that we belong to the ocean. We are the ocean people and ocean is our rights. We will no way give up this. The fight has been started and this fight will continue still we recover our ocean?
So my role, my participation in this conference for the coming days would be how best we can also share some of the African experience in terms of the challenges we are faced. As mentioned, the issue of pollution is getting on the rise. The issue of disappearance of our mangroves, biodiversity that support and protect the ocean, and the fish stock is depleting, is disappearing as a result of the impact of climate change, as a result of salt intrusion, as a result of droughts, among other activities. Our government has very little attention, has very little stake towards protecting the rights and livelihood of the small-scale fishers, from both the ocean fishers as well as the artisanal fishers, inland fishers. So we are challenged, and at the moment in Africa, we are realizing that the fisheries resources, the fisheries stock is getting depleted day by day, and no sustainable measures are employed by government. Our government are concentrated in more administrative work instead of providing infrastructure, instead of providing capacity building, instead of providing situations or enabling policies that will protect the livelihood and the job of the small-scale fishers.
Our government is still not recognizing inland fishers, people in South Africa. In February this year, a new inland fishery policy has been published, but it has not been implemented, and we are still not being recognized, and the criminalization are still happening. At the moment, we don't get assistance from our government, especially now the past 2 years that we were attacked by the hard COVID-19. So there wasn't any assistance from our government. Our important role that we are playing towards ensuring there is a source of food in localized communities is being pushed away from the table. In some areas, fishers is getting shot and killed, arrested. Some of their fishing gear is being confiscated by rangers, nature reserve, field officers. One of the challenges that we experience is the fact that we are not able to fish in areas that have been allocated to nature reserve. We are kept out from our traditional resources or asked to pay certain fees. Another challenge is also that we are concerned with the development of large-scale aquaculture in our dam and the impact that this will have on the species that we are usually find in the river. We are also kept away from the dam due to private property of farmers and tourism blocking access for fishers. Lastly, we know that our constitution gives us rights to the natural resources to fulfill our right to food, livelihoods, and equality. Fisher rights are human rights, and we have laws and policies that recognize this at national and international level. But government and other actors are not fully in their duties in recognizing and realizing these rights. So we have, as fisher people, that means that as fishers, we have to fight to affirm our rights. We organize ourselves to advocate with the state and other government actors, but also to protest and take action. We will not accept to be removed or moved out from our land and territories like it has been during apartheid. And we will continue to struggle for our rights to be realized.
We are adding on a very fundamental cultural identity to this, that of the ocean people. And from Ecuador to Africa to India, Southeast Asia, from where Tierra friends and the fisher leaders from Indonesia spoke, it is very evident that this new identity is going to be the struggle forward for the movement. So I think this ocean people identity taking on and challenging the so-called corporate stakeholders of the ocean is an important political game changer. So this resist, reject the ocean conference. They are here to loot the ocean after ecologically and in a disastrous way, eliminating the resources on the land and in the mountains and in the forest is a clear message. One is, this is called the People's COP. When the COPs are usually organized by the governmental, institutional, UN mechanism, this is the People's COP. This is our response, our assertion, our reclamation of our resources. And this is hence a historic event that is happening with participation from across the countries and continents. Secondly, this is the time of the year when Lisbon in Portugal is witnessing the Ocean Conference hosted by the UN, promoted and propagated by several corporations who have large profit interests in the oceans and coastal lands. We are organizing the Conference of the Ocean People to denounce, resist, and reject this corporate agenda, this corporatization agenda of the oceans and the coastlands. The fishing community from across the world, both the coastal fishing community as well as in solidarity, the inland fishing community, is coming together in the Conference of the Ocean People to denounce, resist, and reject this corporatization agenda. And this corporatization agenda, let me remind you, is coming to you through the garb of the ocean grabbing, as well as the blue economy regimes that have been started with support by states, governments, and also the different corporations. The UN is legitimizing this corporatization, we are afraid, and that is why the World Forum of Fisher People has taken on this challenge of doing the Conference of the Ocean People. We are grateful to all the organizations across continents and countries who have extended their endorsement and solidarity to the Conference of the Ocean People.
So this is really a great opportunity for fisher people all over the world come together to resist, let's say, the way that the states are trying to hand over, grab our resources to corporates, the corporate capture. So we hope this message, what we are delivering here, will be heard the states, the leaders who are trying to capture our resources, our rights, basically our customary rights of the people.
Eroding our healthy relationship with nature, be the land, the forest, and the seas. This is how today we would always term ourselves as indigenous people, as if we have been taken away from our lands. But it is a system that came into being that we welcomed so much because we are welcoming people that is dividing us. We have to amplify our voices to demand loss and damage reparations. Reparations for overfishing, reparations for overfishing. We do fishing sustainably, and we use indigenous knowledge systems for that do not destroy. Whilst the corporate system, the corporate system against us use destructive methods, including toxic chemicals that poison our seas, that poison our coastal areas. We have to demand reparation for the destruction of our lives and our rivers and the seas. We have to reclaim our power, and reclaiming that power would mean that we need to speak in one voice, and we should shout out loud loss and damage reparations.
How our governments, the states now, how they are trying to open up our resources, the natural resources which we are enjoying, which we are living on, to the corporates, is the biggest threat, biggest problem today.
I think that one of the fundamental problems facing global fisheries is that fish are seen by big business, as a commodity and not as something to be consumed by ordinary people, but as a way to make profits. And I'm sure we all understand that. So what I want to talk about is the way that the blue economy is structured as a territory as a global territory to create profit. Crucial here is that this is more than fish and it's more than fishing. So for these big distant water fishing nations, their commercial maritime expansion it is part of that story, part of the blue economy is fishing, but other parts are shipping, other parts are, of course, deep sea mining and other kind of extractive activities in the global ocean. What this means is the countries like China and Japan and the United States and others see their maritime expansion as being more than fish. And you see this with the Chinese today and the Japanese and the Spanish in the past, where they see fisheries as an industrial strategy as part of a wider blue economy. So for boat building, to extract raw material from the ocean, for processing, and then particularly for the Chinese, for exports. So a lot of the production in China of marine fisheries is primarily for exports. And so to conclude, I think that when we think about the blue economy, we think about fisheries very often, but distant water fisheries cannot be understood as just fishing alone. Fishing is not the primary kind of interest here. The primary interest is the extraction of raw material to process it and to make a profit. And so China is not alone here. There are strong parallels with Japan, the United States, and France and Spain, as I've already mentioned. China is in a way tempered, it's limited in what it can do because of the exclusive economic zone. Lots of coastal states try to use their control over the exclusive economic zone to capture revenue, but this is always quite a political kind of process. Meanwhile, the Chinese government, just the same as we've seen with the other advanced fishing nations, prop up their distant water fishing fleets, which then engage in conflict with small-scale fishers. So ultimately, we all know that these contradictions, the ecological contradictions facing these fisheries will eventually undermine them, but then at what cost? And I think this is one of the urgent questions facing any talk about the blue economy now.
It is here to understand what UN Ocean Conference, who has designed it, who is controlling it, and what are the power centers within the conference. We should understand what happened just 2-3 days before UN Ocean Conference began on 27th of, that is just yesterday. It wish to say that I just wanted to share that the World Trade, WTO, along with big world corporations and the big ENGOs, environmental NGOs, they had a plan and they gathered together and planned what should be pushed within UN Ocean Conference. So the agenda is set. The agenda is already planned to take within the conference. And the main thing what is being discussed is based on ocean governance. That is, ocean is seen as an economic source. It is not seen as what it belongs to us. We claim, we say, the fishers say that it is our ocean and we belong to the ocean. But the corporates say that the ocean is for economy, for minting money, and so how to invest in ocean and get the profits. So that is the main agenda, and how to govern it, the governance part of the ocean. So that plays a major role, and how from there it flows to the decisions and the policies, and it is pushed in the conference, and from there it flows to the states and countries. So now we may think that we are called to participate within. Yeah, there are many NGOs, environmental NGOs, and climate NGOs for joining hands with the corporates and participating in the ocean conference. Yes, they believe there is a belief that just because we are able to participate and invited, that our voices will be heard, but it is not. We cannot say. See, we have to understand the power politics. There is power imbalance, and out of 100, if 95 are from corporates and NGOs and 95 and other sources, state bureaucrats representing the country, what is the meaning of? Where is the meaning of a few people going and representing as fisher movements, as community leaders, and say that we represent and we are here to present our views? Definitely, our views will not be heard. It will be for saying that we give you a chance. You are invited, and we are not avoiding you. We are not keeping you outside. We are calling you inside, and that you will be allowed to share your views. But sharing the views doesn't mean that our voices will be heard. So there are two positions. One is especially WFFP leaders, they remained outside. They joined together and they come out with statements and come out with they address the press also, saying that this UN conference is not for the community, but it is for taking over the governance of the ocean itself and moving towards the corporate's governance over the ocean. So now we have raised our voice and made the people listen that there is that community. What we have organized as COP has played a major role, saying that yes, we are belong to the ocean and ocean is our. So now to that extent, we are able to reach the UN conference, and we will continue to voice out through all ways, not only community leaders gathering at the individual spaces and raising our voice, or as a whole, as a movement, leaders raising their voice, but also through social media and other forums. Our voices should be raised, continuously raised. Continuously we should say that we are here as the governance part of his ocean should be, belongs to, that's what we are saying. We are there and fishers are there, and we will never give up the commons that belongs to, that has fed us so long. So that is the message we have to reach to the people.
For me, the ocean is really not just a vast expanse of water. Persons who do not perhaps work closely with the ocean may not necessarily understand the value of the ocean to a small island like St. Lucia. But for persons like me who work with the sector, it is a means of a livelihood to many, many families within our small country. It is a producer of wholesome protein, and it's a naturally available source of food. The ocean is indeed a viable resource, and one that both those who are directly involved in the sector and those who benefit from the offsprings, the offshoots of the industry and the sector should recognize and appreciate it as a very viable resource. In St. Lucia, we've always felt that government does not give due recognition or enough recognition to the sector. And so a lot of the times measures are more reactive rather than proactive when it comes to dealing with matters that have to do with the ocean and the users of the ocean resource. One of the greatest challenges, and not necessarily with the resource itself, is that I think that the industry is in dire need of modernization to create both a greater level of efficiency as well as a greater level of sustainability. Because what we want as part of the sectors, as members and movers and shakers of the sector, is that we want to ensure that there is sustainability, that for years to come, our people can enjoy the ocean, can enjoy the resources within the ocean. So it means that we must put measures in place to mitigate against overuse, to mitigate against abuse, to ensure that there are proper policies and procedures in place to guide, but more so to protect that vulnerable, the vulnerable resources, yet important resources that exist within the ocean. A lot of the ways and means of using the ocean resource is very traditional, and so I think there is need to modernize it. Fisher organizations have to empower their members, and the members themselves have to want to be empowered. There needs to be a thirst and a hunger for knowledge so that we can take charge of the ocean. Because when matters related to the ocean do not get discussed, do not get to be brought to the fore, it is really the users of the resource that suffer. And so there has to be a thrust and a drive and a hunger and thirst within the people of the sector, the users of the ocean resource, to want to come to the fore, to be able to get our voices heard.
I work mostly in the Eastern Cape and in KZN. We work with these communities. These are the communities that have the fishing rights that were given to them by the government way back in 2012. Long before these fishing rights were given to these communities, they were denied to have a fishing as part of their life. Then when the National Party, or in 1948, even during the apartheid government, many of the communities where these fishers are coming from, they were removed from where they resided before. After they were forcibly removed, the areas where they were before were earmarked or were secured as marine protected areas. That made it much more difficult for the communities to access the sea, because now for their villages to be secured or to be established as marine protected areas, it meant that for one to get to the sea, one have to go or walk for more than an hour. And now what happened is, with the first removals that took place under the apartheid and colonial time, many of the people of which are part of the fishing communities, they don't only take fishing as only just for them to put food in the table, but they have an association with the sea. We believe that many of our ancestors, they reside within the ocean. Now for the community members to be removed from where they were residing, they were taken away from their beliefs, their cultures, because now there are certain types of trees, roots that are there along the sea that were now they're not able to have an access to those. These are the things that are happening for these fishing communities along the coast, especially for the two provinces. Here in South Africa, we have two provinces that are dominated by Black South Africans. One province is called KwaZulu-Natal. The province of KwaZulu-Natal and the province of Eastern Cape, you will see, these are the two provinces where you have so many of the established marine protected areas. And now with the recent Shell survey, where they want to see whether there is oil or there is gas along the coastal line of South Africa, what is the contradiction is happening here, because the areas are earmarked as marine protected areas, but at the very same time, the government is giving a permission for a private company or a commercial company to have a go-ahead to say that they must go and drill oil and gas in the same area that you denied the locals, saying that it's a marine protected area. That is the contradiction that is happening.
The women has a big role in the fishery. She feeds thousands and thousands people, but still she is invisible. So in this situation, we all are to be think how women can enjoy her earlier role. We all must be knowing her status in the fishing community. She was earning and feeding to family also and the people around, but now she is helpless. In the context of the blue economy and name of the development, all the governments are bringing such a projects in the ocean, and ocean is getting a problem. So our role to protect our resources in the ocean, and we regain our rights. That rights are the traditional and customary rights. The what experience I had in the India, many women are fishing in the coastal area, that is the tidal area, but we found that there is no data on the government records. So she is the invisible and she won't get anything for the survival. So this is, all countries should have start something. This is the very serious thing I found.
This debate is not just about the identity of fish workers calling themselves as ocean people. Let us be very clear about the fact that this question is that of a political dialogue, a political stakeholdership, a political assertion, and a political reclamation of the ocean by the people of the ocean. And hence, this is not just about coastal fish workers versus inland fish workers, or this is not about, are the fish workers the only stakeholders to the ocean, etc. This is far beyond that. This is a battle for recognition, a battle for retribution, redistribution, reparations, and justice for the ocean people, the oceanic civilizations, a question of recognition and justice. As I said, something that started as a dream of a few people to take forward this battle of identity, to reassert the community's stake in the oceans at a time when the global giants are sitting across in Lisbon, talking about their stake around the ocean. Here, the people are reasserting themselves in a bid to make sure that the same people who looted, exploited, devastated, and made a disaster out of the land, the forest, the mountains, the rivers, they are not given easy access to destroy the ocean once again. This is a battle for survivors. This is a battle that hopes to reimagine a better future and build back better.
So today, parallelly, the United Nations conference is going on, where they are loudly there to say that ocean belongs to all of us. But we are here to say as ocean belongs to ocean people. We belong to the ocean people. That is our affirmation towards them. Corporates, transnational corporations, international development organization, conservation organizations are sitting together, blaming us for the resource curse that has happened, and they are trying to take over the resources from us. That's a parallel thing that is going on in the UN Ocean Conference. I am here to say that this assertion is a historical step that WFFP and NFF with all our ocean people throughout the globe has taken this. And we are here to affirm that we belong to the ocean and our ocean, and it's our rights. We start the day one before they start the events. And we are going to conclude the session, the validatory session, with the political declaration before they conclude their session with the zero draft of their statement or the declaration statement, which is going to come tomorrow. So we are here ahead of them, and this action should go nowadays and for the future. That is our future. We have to go ahead of them. Otherwise, our oceans will be as fenced by the blue economy. Now it will be over and fenced.
Well, Sierra Leone is a small country known for its many minerals and obviously extreme poverty. But our people here in Sierra Leone have been traditionally known for fishing and hunting initially before civilization. And as at present, the fishing industries here, mainly locally, are done in small scale. And also we have industrial fishing. The government is doing its best to regulate the industrial fishing, but there are many challenges otherwise. In the first place, the fishing industry in Sierra Leone is not much regulated. Unlike the mining industry, they have different policies. They even have artisanal mining policy, which helps regulate the industrial mining as well as the small scale mining. I think we need that in Sierra Leone because the fishermen from day one have been the poorest people in Sierra Leone, So in order to get there, we need proper policies to regulate between the industrial and the locals. Because now local fishermen will tell you that, for example, within this IEZ zone, they will be fishing. And fishing is done with tide. The tide will take them somewhere they can't even know that I am at this GPS location. And what happens next is maybe they get hit by ships or even trawlers, they just take them away, just like that. So the ministry is not well capacitated to be able to judge such matters because the trawler will tell you that I was not within that zone, I was within my zone. And the locals will tell you, well, I was within my zone. So there's no way to know the facts of those matters. So one, there should be capacity building. Secondly, the local fishermen should be included in negotiations. Civil society organizations like ours should be included in workshops that would bring in the right idea and mediation between the people. Because definitely, I would tell you in such matters, for example, the local fishermen, their canoes have limitations, limited capacity, which means they can't go too far. And we all know the capacity of the industrial fishermen and their crew. They definitely can go too far. So in such matters, it is easy to know that it's the industrial people who came within the IEZ of the locals. So, but mostly most fishermen lose all their property due to such.
Besides for being food, the ocean being a source of food and a livelihood, it's also much more than that. It's almost part of the cultural fabric. And for people of the Western Cape and the Northern Cape, there's the strong spiritual connection we have with the ocean. So it's not uncommon for you to speak to some of the ocean people, and you will hear them say that the sea is some type of meditation for them, or some way of getting rid of the concerns and the challenges that they face in their daily lives. So the ocean is more of a home to these fishing communities. But we are seeing that they are losing access to the oceans. And it is also changing the social and cultural identity of these fishing communities, this lack of access that they're having. We experience the lack of access to marine protected areas. And many of these marine protected areas has been traditional fishing grounds for our small scale fishers. I've seen cases where fishers are not allowed small scale fishers are not allowed to go into marine protected areas, whereas sports fishers or recreational fishers are allowed to fish there. fishes are being shot and killed for fishing in marine protected areas, while mining rights are being allocated in these same areas where fishes are being harassed.
During the past few days, FIAN has stood in solidarity with our comrades from NFF and several members of WFFP outside the UN, because we also view this event, this ocean conference of the UN, as an event, as another benchmark for corporate capture and multi-stakeholderism. The UN Ocean Conference has a motto: save our ocean, protect our future. But we question, whose ocean is the UN saving and whose future is the UN protecting? When the ocean is the source of life for traditional fisher folk, who are the custodians and saviors of the oceans, embracing lives above and below the ocean and its surrounding ecosystems and biodiversity. Then why were fisher folk and their movements not involved in the agenda setting of the UN conference? Instead, corporations, financial institutions, philanthropists, and donors were invited to support its preparation and were among those, together with large environmental organizations with close ties with the corporate world, who shaped the content of the conference. The world continues to see how the human rights of traditional fisher folk are being neglected, infringed upon, and outright violated in the name of development and protection of the ocean. Where do we sail from here? We must come together and unite against the present currents and be prepared for a corporate tsunami that it is yet to come. As FIAN International, we will continue to work and support fisher folks and ocean people to fight and resist against ocean grabbing and overcome this corporate takeover of our spaces. You have been, you are, and you will be the ocean people representing the thousands of years of oceanic civilization.
Today, there is a big concept that urged in our coastal. They call it as a blue economy. Many countries want to encourage sustainable development in the coastal, and the government try to achieve sustainable development in order to make sure coastal communities are able to reach welfare. But unfortunately, there is no sustainable development under the blue economy, especially in Indonesia. Under the blue economy concept, there will be massive tourism projects in our coastal, and one of the customary communities died because he refused to give his land to this tourism project. Under blue economy, there will be 1 million hectares of aquaculture expansion in coastal and in our sea. 5 years ago, Kiara, together with our network, used to manage advocacy over 7,000 shrimp farmers in Lampung against big shrimp companies based in Thailand because they've been abused and bondage by the slavery system, and it was known by our government. Under the blue economy, there will be massive marine protected area that will limit the access and control of fisher folk. Indonesia have a complete package of ocean grabbing, start from reclamation, mining, tourism, aquaculture, marine protected area that affect coastal community from their ocean. Is it what we call sustainability? Coastal community don't care about the blue, the green, the red, or anything. They only need their traditional waters. This is the face of injustice that happen in everywhere.
For sure, Crocevia want to express his solidarity for the ocean people to reclaim their oceans and recognize their and reimagine their future.
Just want to share with you a short version of what our experiences are as CNFO and some of the challenges that we face as fisher people in the Caribbean. A lot of them is pressure from industrial fleets, of course, the climate change, ocean grabbing. Those are just some of the challenges that we face as a Caribbean people, as a Caribbean fisher folk.
We will be reading loud the political declaration. Herewith I invite Jesu, Herman, and our Valencio, and also Vijay to facilitate the declaration, to read out the declaration from the Conference of Ocean People.
The declaration from the Conference of the Ocean People 2022. Reclaiming the ocean, reimagine our future. The International Conference of the Ocean People, COP 2022, took place on 28th and 30th June 2022. This global declaration presented and adopted at the valedictory session held on the 30th 2022 COP brought forward the diverse historical claims, testimonies, uniting the ocean people for the first time on a global platform, asserting their historical, traditional, customary rights over the ocean. It showcased the diversity within the ocean people as we participated and shared our views from different parts of the world.
In terms of establishing both the political context of this identity struggle and also embarking on a new journey in the fisheries movement, in the fisher movement history of the globe. And I think that new journey is also a new strategic battle toward taking the fisher movement to a new height. And I think Comrade Herman said this very well day before yesterday when he said that this is a new path, this is a new journey. And here, as you heard in the declaration, three very key important frameworks there. One is down with the neo-colonization of the ocean. Two is this is the new blue apartheid, and we are not going to take this lying down. Third is we will not allow the corporate blue washing to happen on our lives, on our livelihood, and on our way of life. To quote Jones here, when the concept note came about, his primary line was that the fishers movement, or the terminology of fisher, fish worker, fisher folk, fisherman, and even, I mean, you know, the class consciousness based terminology of the fish worker does not actually include the framework that this is not just a means of livelihood for the community of coastal people and ocean people. Doing fishing is an act that secures your livelihood. But of course, that is only one part of the life of an ocean, a community of ocean people. And that is exactly the point that is being pushed here. There has been an oceanic civilization. There is a need for that recognition. And that is the basis of this rejection of the UN Ocean Conference that is happening now. So this is where we are. I think the Conference of the Ocean People declaration that we read out here today by Nadine, Jesu, and Herman will be taken around the world to different communities of ocean people. You heard Jonathan, you heard several of our very clear in terms of what we are understanding from the perspective of taking on this new identity struggle. This is not to give up on the identity of fisher people, fisher folk, fisher, fish workers. This is an additional responsibility of reclaiming the oceans from the hands of the very same people who have destroyed the lands, mountains, rivers, and our forests. And this is a new alliance building, as Makoma Lekulekula said on the day 2 of the Mega Thematic Day when she spoke, and she very unambiguously said, this battle against the neo-colonization is a battle of the indigenous people standing shoulder to shoulder with the ocean people of the world. And I think that is the one thing that we are setting forth here. You heard it through the number of solidarity messages that came about today, from FIAN to human rights organizations to ecological rights groups. So the message from the conference is clear, it's loud, it is something that has unsettled the UN conference, to say the least. And we have very clear messages from those people who are also participating in the UN conference that there is a lot of talk about the Ocean People Conference. We are not here just to be spoken about. We are here. This conference is an outcome of a lot of effort of the last more than 3 months of a lot of people. But this conference, and we are here to make sure that we are not just heard, but we are here to change the destiny of this building back that the corporate world wants to do. They want to ride on the pandemic. They want to ride on the COVID. They want to ride on the future of their profits, the dreams that they are seeing. Here there is a call it a romantic call, but you cannot shrug it aside. You cannot set it aside. This call is a revolutionary call indeed to take over the politics of the oceans by the community, by the people of the ocean. And I think that is what is here to stay. And that stake cannot be rubbished aside by any of the big lobby of experts and international organizations, conservation organizations, or corporations that are spending billions and billions of dollars and euros on the ocean. Be it marine spatial planning, be it your 30 by 30 games, be it the ports that are being increasingly taken over by private players across the world. I think this is going to be something that the community, as many of you put it in the chat box, this is a struggle, but this is also fast turning into a war. Like the indigenous people's battle, this will be fought till the right to resources are established. And I think that's where the core of this message is. This is the message from the Conference of the Ocean Peoples. We're indeed indebted to a lot of people who made this conference possible. From Nadine, who is our Secretary General of the World Forum of Fisher People, who immediately came on board and said, this has to be our way forward. From ocean grabbing to understanding better the blue economy framework, now we are on to the ocean people's path of resistance against and rejection of these new blue washing that are happening.
Saviors who inspire children. Learning the sorrow, she cries out for survival. She calls us to fight and free her endless pain and torture.